Good afternoon. Welcome back to Trinity Cathedral in Portland, Oregon. My name is Katie Burke, and I'm the organ scholar here.
And I'm Bruce Neswick, the director of music.
Well, thank you again for joining us for the next installment of our weekly hymn class, Hymns Up Close.
We are going to start with the second hymn for Sunday morning, the hymn that we call the sequence hymn, the hymn that comes right before the gospel. And that is hymn number 661, They Cast Their Nets in Galilee. It's a marriage of text and tune that's been around for a fair amount of time, as it was in the old hymnal, the hymnal 1940. I grew up with this wonderful text and tune. It's perfectly poised to illuminate the gospel this Sunday, because the gospel is about Jesus and gathering his disciples to become fishers of people. The text, of course, addresses this quite directly. The text, in fact, is from a poem by William Alexander Percy. The hymn itself starts with his second verse, but the first verse, which was not used to create the hymn, starts off, I love to think of them at dawn beneath the frail pink sky, casting their nets in Galilee and fish hawks circling by. And the second verse is where the hymn picks up, casting their nets in Galilee just off the hills of brown, such happy, simple fisher folk before the Lord came down. The tune is called Georgetown. It's a lovely tune that's in a mixed meter by a great American church musician named David McKay Williams. Williams was the musician at St. Bartholomew's Church on Park Avenue in New York City for a very long time, in the middle part of the 20th century. He named this tune Georgetown because he was a very good friend of a priest, poet, hymn writer named F. Bland Tucker, who I guess at the time of the writing of this tune was the rector of St. John's Church in Georgetown, Washington, D.C. So hymn 661, They Cast Their Nets in Galilee, and we'll do all four stanzas. It's a very short hymn, all four stanzas. Please join us if you're able. They cast their nets in Galilee, just off the hills of brown, such happy, simple fisher folk, before the Lord came down. Contented, peaceful fishermen, before they ever knew the peace of God that filled their hearts brimful and broke them too. Young John, who trimmed the flapping sail, homeless in Patmos died. Peter, who hauled the teeming net, head down was crucified. The peace of God, it is no peace, but strife closed in the sod. Yet let us pray for but one thing, the marvelous peace of God.
Next, we'll take a look at our communion hymn for this Sunday's 10 a.m. Eucharist. 550 in the Episcopal Hymnal 1982, Jesus Calls Us O'er the Tumult. The music is actually a pentatonic sort of modal tune that comes from the shape note tradition. So this first appeared with a tune named Restoration in the mid-1800s in the Southern Harmony, which was compiled by William Walker. It's been set to several texts and variants of the tune. Also, this is has sort of proliferated through the repertoire over the years. Another really common text to go with this tune is "I will arise and go to Jesus." So that's another common one. This particular text was written by Cecil Frances Alexander, and she wrote this poem initially in the mid-1800s and revised it in 1881. But most modern hymnals prefer her original version, and her poem is based on the collect, epistle, and gospel readings for St. Andrew's Day, and the original narrates Matthew's account of Andrew's call. And this fits right in with the whole theme of call that we have this week at our Eucharist. And we'll sing verses 1 and 2.
So good to have all of you with us today. Before we end with our final requested hymn, we thought we'd both invite you to our new bishop's consecration, which will be at 2 p.m. Next Saturday, and on all our usual media channels. But we'd love to have you join us then, and also, of course, tomorrow for our services at 10, and then evensong at 5 p.m. Mm-hmm. And Katie's going to describe the requested hymn.
Yes, this is hymn number 463 in the Episcopal Hymnal, with poetry by W.H. Auden, who was an Anglo-American poet, quite famous for a couple of longer works. He's a poem that was famously read in the movie Four Weddings and a Funeral. And then this particular hymn comes from a longer poem called The Age of Anxiety, and that specific line will come up in this hymn. And then the music is called, the tune is called Hall by David Hurd, who is one of the most important living church musicians in the Episcopal Church. So here is hymn number 463.
The
Amen.